Okay, this question, it's a good question. It's something that companies go through quite regularly. When we look at the operating results of the Eagle Road store and the State Street store, you can see that they both have negative, uh, or they have operating losses. So we may be inclined to close these. But the decision that we need to make, and what we want to follow Annie's lead on, right? Annie says they should not close the Eagle Road store. Of course, they're both losing 50,000 a year, so we may ask why would that be. So what we'll do is calculate how we would go about solving this. And I need a little bit of room here to do this. So when we're making a decision whether or not to close a store, what we want to look at is the lost contribution margin versus the savings of any reduced fixed costs. That is the comparison that we're making. And so the lost contribution margin of this is the Eagle Road store, right? 900,000 minus 450 of variable expense gives us contribution margin of 450,000. And then the State Street store, that gives us contribution margin of 300,000. 800 minus 500. So we have Eagle and State Street. The lost contribution margin minus 450. If we close these stores, we're losing out on 450 and 300,000 of contribution margin. The next thing, though, that it tells us is that the traceable fixed costs can be eliminated. So we have a savings of 260 and a savings of 310. So plus 260 and plus 310. So if we close the Eagle Road store, we are worse off by 190,000. Our operating income is worse off by 190,000. If we close the State Street store, we are better off by 10,000. So Annie says don't close the Eagle Road store. Is she correct? Yes, she is. Why? Because we'd be worse off by 190,000 if we did it. Should we close the State Street store? Why or why not? The answer there is yes. And why is our operating income would increase by 10,000 if we were to close that store and forego those savings. I'm not entirely sure what this third question's asking for, so you may want to look back in your notes. It sounds like she references some PowerPoints. Maybe she discusses something in there when she teaches this topic. If senior management determines a store should be closed, what action could the store manager take to try to keep the store open? The most obvious one is, well, you point out the positive contribution margin that would be lost if the store is closed. But maybe there's also a way of reducing the traceable fixed costs so that the stores could be more profitable.